What up, everybody? Mike D checking in here. It seems like everything that people have been speaking about this week has revolved around Atlanta and Atlanta's hip hop scene, whether that be Thug, whether that be Lucci, whether that be Rollo. And it made me think, like, what is the real legacy of Atlanta hip hop and Atlanta's place in this whole hip hop thing? Now, a lot of people are in the media, I'm seeing, and in social media. We can't ignore social media. It's life. It's the way that people move and the way that people converse and get massive amounts of information now. But a lot of people out there are talking about the fact that it's over for Atlanta and over for Atlanta hip hop and Atlanta scene, and the reign is quote unquote over. Now, we have to kind of, I want to gauge this in a sense where, where does Atlanta's run start? Now, for the people who don't know, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised, and I was here for the whole thing. Like, I was here for, Outkast's rise, Goody Mob's rise, Kilo Ali and Raheem the Dream for the people who are local like that. MC Shadi is slightly before my time, but I remember coming up hearing that stuff on the radio, right? So for me, it's tough to really gauge exactly when Atlanta's run starts, right? Because I'm in it. I can't really look outside and see that. But I would gauge it as maybe Atlanta's run starts around '03, I guess. And I don't really know where it quote unquote ends. Maybe you could say 2018, 19-ish, or maybe you say now. I don't know. But that's a question for you guys. I want to hear that in the comment section. But what I will say is these recent events, and I'm not trying to separate, Atlanta from, Young Thug and all that stuff now because of what's happened. I do think that Atlanta's legacy is a myriad of things, right? I don't think that it's just strictly street music, even though it is. You have the Jeezys, you have, what Gucci brought to the table. You have what Thug brings to the table, you have what Migos brought to the table. But also, I think in the grand scheme of things, we're talking about legalities and, court cases and things of that nature. Um, Street music in general took a hit. I think that there's a lot of things that are going to be not spoken about on record as much as they once were, and so freely, and activities that were so freely just glamorized that won't make it to record as it once did. And they're going to be big corporations that don't feel like it's worth actually investing in that either, because there are ramifications that could spill over to others. This was a huge headache, and then not to mention in the grand scheme of things, when things get hot, it's going to be difficult for the individuals involved to actually live by some of the things that they say on their records. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Why do we love hip hop so much? We love hip hop and the emceeing and the messaging because we either can relate with the individual who's saying what they're saying, or we we I don't want to say glamorize what they're saying and doing, but we imagine that these things are some of the things that we either want to take part in, or we feel like we would take part in, or feel like that person feels, but it's just not our life. If that makes any sense. Kind of like watching a movie. But what I will say is the believability of an artist is a big part of why we love what that artist does creatively, right? Or we love the scene that it sets and how it makes you feel in in a certain setting. And I think once that gets taken away, the authenticity of it's gone, and you can't really relate. But with that being said, that doesn't mean you're not going to be able to relate to other artists. That just means that now artists got to get a little bit more creative. Just that, the street stuff is, I mean, Lil Yachty said something that I thought was very, very astute. He said, man, the easiest thing in rap to be is hard. And it's easy to go out there and talk that stuff, but what's the hard part is to actually live that out. And the hard part living it out is having to deal with the legalities of it, having to deal with the legal fees of it, having to be away from your family or be behind bars and things of that nature. And now, once you get out, having to live with the ramifications of everything that came with that, whether that be recordings, whether that be leaks, whether that be, other people in the circle, all of those things, like it's difficult to deal with. None of this stuff has anything to do with music. I do feel like, if Thug specifically was to come with some music that could make people forget about this, maybe they would. But again, based on your content and the lyrical content, it's going to be difficult to be able to come with something that has that tone and that lyrical content based on what we know has happened in reality. But this is about Atlanta. This ain't about that. I know the Dungeon family is reuniting at One Music Fest. That's going to be in Atlanta this October. Rest in peace to Rico Wade. For the people who don't know who Rico Wade is the individual who brought the Dungeon family together. Outkast and Goody Mob, all of the individuals involved in that, Organized Noise, Cool Breeze, Witch Doctor, Backbone, they all recorded at his house, at his mama's house in his basement where the red clay was is where the term Dirty South came from. Um, they found a double entendre. And by they, I mean Cool Breeze. He put that together, put that on the Goody Mob album Soul Food, and it's cemented in history. Now, to talk about history, that's where Atlanta starts. And that's where Atlanta, begins from a national standpoint, not to say on a local standpoint. And I do think that your roots are very important because those things come back around. Right now, we got JID out there. He's rhyming his ass off, right? I don't think that those individuals can be ignored because of what's going on, I guess, from a mainstream standpoint with Young Thug and all the other individuals involved, Lil Baby, Gunna, if you will. Gunna's out here making music. Gunna's out here running a 5K meet up in New York, man. He's furthering his career and he's focusing on the music. For anybody in Atlanta that is going to move forward in any of this, gonna have to focus on the music. And the music's gonna have to be number one, you're gonna have to be creative at this point. And you're gonna have to get off of the social media stuff. And I think that what we're getting to now in hip hop is people are tired of the social media stuff and they want to get to the music. And your music is what is going to set you apart, not the gimmicks, not social media. And I think Atlanta's just gonna have to get back to that personally. It's not gonna be, flash in the pan type stuff. I love the fact that Metro Boomin put out the Futuristic Summer mixtape. Like that really shows that the talent's still there. It's about finding sounds now. It's about finding vibes and finding the creativity in you, whether that is you lyrically doing what you're doing, harmony. No, what's the word I'm looking for? Finding melodics. That's the word I'm looking for that fit what you're doing. And I mean, just coming with some dope shit, man. Like this is what, in my opinion, this is what Atlanta's built on. These guys, I need to get my playlistic vinyl, and I need some Goody Mob vinyl too. Um, but yeah, man, the creativity's always been there, and I don't feel like these situations define Atlanta, man. I mean, I'll go down the timeline from a mainstream standpoint. We went from Cass, Goody, you know what I'm saying, to getting Ludacris, who was very, very necessary as far as like being a solo superstar that could break nationally. And then we got, Lil Jon and the East Side Boys doing what they did, bringing in that crunk era from a national standpoint. I know 3 6, originated the crunk thing, but Lil Jon took it national. And shout out to John, man. He just finished third place in the fitness competition, man. Shout out to him, Muscle Beach. And then you had T.I. come and bring his individual flavor with, and I think that T.I. is the most rounded artist that the South has hip hop artist the South has ever seen. We talk about somebody who has the versatility to jump on, underground mixtape type of collaborations and do a Blurred Lines and do My Love with Justin Timberlake. No one did that or does that as seamlessly as Ti has done in his career. We got to give him his flowers for that. We got to Killer Mike, who I saw a couple of weeks back. Man, gave an incredible speech out there at Douglas High School. And you have political individuals like that, or people who can spawn a political movement, who represent the city, who've always represented the city, and still to this day. The event that I saw Killer Mike at was about Collier Heights. You know what I mean? You got JID out here, and you got Dro out here rapping his ass off, and I think that Atlanta's gonna be fine. The future of Atlanta is just gonna have to look at what's going on, what has gone on, and figure out a way that they can carve their own individual path. Shout out to Earth Gang as well. I haven't mentioned Earth Gang, but there's so many, man, and it's about being creative and about carving your own path here. But I will say this: I think the lane of street music has definitely changed in hip hop in general, but it specifically has changed here in Atlanta. And I'm sure most companies and most MCs don't even want to go that route. But I think Atlanta's scene is going to be fine. I think the legacy of Atlanta right now shouldn't be defined by this era alone. I think you have to look at all eras of Atlanta's music, and just define it from that. But what I will say, if I could put it in a simple phrase or a simple sentence, Atlanta Atlanta shook things up and made things fun in hip hop, almost in a 80s type of way, but more of an updated way. And when things got a little bit more hardcore, then it kind of fizzled out. And I don't want to say fizzled out, but it's gonna have to go in another direction. Very similar to what we saw in New York. New York and hip-hop in the 80s was extremely fun, and then it got a lot more hardcore in the 90s. And then that bubble, it gets really really hot, you know what I mean, and it has to go to another place, and it did. And it had to get a little bit more fun again. And then again, Atlanta picked up on the fun. But I am very hopeful that my city will be able to recover, and I love what Atlanta has brought to hip hop. I know a lot of people feel like Atlanta killed hip hop. I think there was a lot of forces in that, but Atlanta hip hop scene is not a monolith, and I think that you can find anybody who does something that you like in hip hop that came from the city. But let me know if you guys think that I'm wrong. Let me know if you think that Atlanta is just done. It's over for Atlanta. Hit like and subscribe, and I'm gonna talk to you guys soon. All right.